Yeah, so a lot of us know Brothers Grimm. They're German. Um, and a lot of our fairy tales that we know today with their cute little happy endings, um, they're not cute happy endings in these ones. No, there's a lot of mutilation and stuff.
We love that for them.
Nothing like cutting off some body parts to try to fit the bill.
Hello and welcome, fiends, to Geeky Ghouls. We're your hosts. I'm Cheyenne.
And Claudia.
On this episode, we're doing a very special segment episode called Ghoulish Giggles, where we make ourselves some spirits, have some giggles, and talk about anything from our favorite fairy tales, movies, video games, and spooky lore.
From rags to riches and people in high places who obsess a little bit too much over feet. But hey, no kink shaming here.
To help us sum up these tales, we'll make ourselves a little spirit that goes along with this tale. This episode's drink of choice was a pumpkin spiced white Russian. Although we're tequila girlies, we decided to give this one a try.
So let's get into this drink recipe. You're going to rim your glass with pumpkin spice and sugar, and to a shaker, we're going to add 2 ounces or 2 shots of vodka, your choice of vodka, of course. If you don't want it too strong, you can add 1 ounce or 1 shot of vodka. We like our spirits here, so we're going to add 2. Next, we're going to add 1 ounce or 1 shot of coffee liqueur. We're using Kahlua. And lastly, we're going to add 1 ounce or 1 shot of pumpkin spice creamer of your choice. You can use dairy-free if you choose to. And after that, we're going to top it off with some whipped cream and pumpkin spice. Cheers.
Mm. Mm. It's pretty good.
Pretty creamy.
All right. How are you guys doing?
Doing good now.
Doing good so far.
Feeling good?
Now that we're all boozy, we got some spirits in us.
We're all
So we all know
spirited.
about our classic tale of Cinderella. Well, most people know the Disney tale of Cinderella. But I'm interested to learn about other tales of Cinderella.
Wow. Don't I have stories for you then? So one of the earliest tellings of that sounds a lot like the beginnings of the Cinderella story is the story of Rhodopis. I think that's how you pronounce it. It's Greek, and unfortunately I don't speak that language. Now, the story is there's this Greek girl, and she's bathing, and a large bird, an eagle of some sort, just swoops down and steals one of her sandals from her servant's hands. And so this bird flies all the way to Egypt. I remember she's in Greece. It flies all the way to Egypt, drops that sandal into the lap of the king, and he was so enamored by this sandal. He was like, "Oh my god, I need to find the owner of this this sandal." Because she must have the best feet. I don't
wonder
know.
if he took a little whiff of it, like a little sniff of that
God.
sandal.
Maybe it was like a custom design sandal. They're like, ooh, she's
Like,
classy.
ooh, Gucci, yeah.
I want to say it was the smell. I feel like most people go for the smell.
You're saying it was all Goodwill?
Yeah.
Anyway, so he's looking at this shoe, and he's like, I gotta find who owns this shoe. And so he sends all his men everywhere to track down whose foot this could fit. And he found her, Rhodopis. And so he had her brought back to Egypt, and they were married. And That sounds a lot like the beginning of Cinderella, don't you think? Like, has the beginnings.
Yeah, he finds a shoe, and then he looks for the person who owns the shoe, and then he immediately marries her.
Never wondering what she actually looks like and only basing
It
it off a
does
shoe.
not matter. It matters what her foot smells like.
No. Yeah.
Size. Size matters,
Does size matter?
according to these princes.
This was a king. A king.
Oh, see, he got a little upgrade. King. She immediately
um,
became queen.
yeah, I mean, you got them nice feet. Hey, baby,
Queen.
come over
Queen
here.
status, guys. Nice feet equals queen status.
uh, so Rodopus is like the earliest telling that we can tell so far, but another early telling comes out of China with the story of Yi Zhang, which I feel puts even more elements of the Cinderella story we know from Disney. Starts off her father's a wealthy man, and he has this wife and he has a daughter. He actually has two wives, and it said the prettiest wife gave birth to Yi Zhang, where she was also beautiful and talented and intelligent, but from his other wife, I guess the ugly one, um, they have a more plain child. She's very lazy and selfish and all that. And unfortunately, Yi Zhang's mother, the pretty one, and her father both pass away from the plague that's going around, leaving her alone with her stepmother and her half sister. After that happened, her stepmom and her sister put her in servitude. So she went from being, a wealthy girl to being the servant kind of overnight. And, she was very sad, but she found solace in this fish she made friends with. It was 10 feet long. It was golden and had golden eyes and was beautiful. And later she finds out that fish is actually her mother. And yeah, it like reincarnation of her mother. And the fish pretty much ends up being like a guardian angel for her. And unfortunately, her stepmother noticed that she found happiness with this fish, and she was like, oh, hell no. And she disguised herself as Yi Zhang to lure the fish back up the surface. And then she stabbed it and cooked it. So obviously, Yi Zhang was devastated by this, but her mother's spirit came to her and told her, take the bones of the fish and put them in clay pots and put them in the corners of your bed, and that'll be my spirit. If you need anything, pray over them, and good stuff will come your way. So some time passed after this, and the spring festival is coming up, and that's exciting because a lot of the single women, that's often where they meet their potential matches, and so everybody wants to go. But Yi Zhang's stepmother is like, no, no, you're not going, because she wants her daughter to get married. And so she's sad, but she prays over the clay pots, and they give her golden shoes and a like jade gown and just everything she needed. And so she put on those clothes after the stepmother and sister were gone, and um had a good time. And everybody was like, who's that hot new lady there? And even her stepmom and stepsister are like, who's this chick? Um, but but it was her, but they didn't know that. eventually she noticed that her stepmom and sister were headed back home, and she panicked because she was not supposed to be there. So she rushes back. She quickly undresses, puts all her clothes in the little clay pots, and um, pretty much hides everything. But when she's running away, she loses one of her golden slippers. And the slipper ends up getting traded around until it reaches a king. And the king's like, once again, like, this is a nice shoe. I need to find the foot that goes into this shoe. And so he sends his people off to go find her. They eventually make it to Yi Zhang's house. The stepmom and the stepsister try on the shoe, doesn't fit, and they're like, "It's no way, it's Yi Zhang." And they're like, "Well, let's try it." And surprise, surprise, it fit her. The king wanted to punish them for being so rude to his future bride that, from what it looks like, is they banned them, I think, from the kingdom. And then the king and Yi Zhang got married and lived happily ever after.
What a tale. I mean, there's so many twists and turns. I was not expecting the mom to be the fish that then gets murdered brutally.
She
Hey,
dies
but
twice.
she's the fairy godmother in this, though. But yeah, she does die twice. But she eventually leads her daughter to marry a prince.
A silver lining after all.
Yeah, after
Mm-hmm.
the whole stepmother. I don't understand why the stepmother would feel so threatened. Because there was obviously more than one suitor in these festivals, but I don't know. That's just
No,
me.
because she hated Yi Zhang for coming
So
from the
beautiful.
beautiful wife or whatever.
Being so beautiful and having the most beautiful feet. Apparently.
The most gorgeous feet of
In
all
all
the
the
lands.
land. Get out of my head.
But that was a fun tale. I'm eager to hear the other tales.
Yeah, this is only the beginning. Let's dive
This is the
in.
only beginning, guys. We got some other
Yeah.
versions too.
So I'm going to briefly talk about the actual story that inspired the Cinderella we know from the Disney movies. It is a rendition of the French version of the story Cendrillon, or the story is also called La Petite Pan. I totally looked up how to pronounce this. I don't speak French. La Petite Panfleur de Verre. Sorry.
Sounded great to me.
Thank you. So in this version, this is the version created by the Anglo-American European cultures combined to bring this story together, by Charles Perrault, in 1697. This is the direct inspiration for the 1950 Disney movie that is known worldwide. This story has the elements of a fairy godmother, pumpkin carriage, the glass slippers. In this, the clothes and the shoes, they disappear each night. However, the last meeting with the prince, she loses one shoe, which doesn't disappear, and she holds on to the other shoe because the pair didn't disappear. So the prince has one, she has the other one. The prince is like, I need to find whose foot fits in this glass slipper, which glass slippers sound awful and painful. And I mean, regular heels already hurt. I can't imagine doing it on glass.
They sound more iconic though. If you have like a regular heel, it's not going to sound as good as someone who's wearing glass heels, glass slippers.
So what we've heard in all the stories, the royalty goes and looks for her. They go door to door asking people to try on the shoe. They finally make it to Cinderella's. The stepsisters try it on and it doesn't fit. And then eventually it fits Cinderella's foot. And they were like, oh, it just could be a coincidence. But then she brought out the other glass slipper and they were like, oh, it was meant to be. And sorry, did I mention I got sick this week? So we're recording a bit later than we usually would. And that's why I have this new sexy voice.
It's very lovely. She might even
Very
be at the
good.
jazz lounge this weekend. You never know.
You sound like a real storyteller. Very deep, rich tone.
Thank you. So in this version, Pearl does favor more kindly to the stepsisters. You'll hear in other stories the stepsisters usually don't fare very well. And in this one, what ends up happening is the prince wants to punish the stepsisters, but Cinderella's like, no, don't do that. Let's find them husbands instead. And they found them husbands, and they all lived happily ever after.
That sounds like Cinderella too. This story is literally the timeline of Cinderella and Cinderella 2 combined into one story.
I have a question. Is Charles Perrault the same guy that wrote the donkey skin one? I know we're not talking about donkey skin tonight. I might write about it later this week and share with everyone that tale.
Is he really the same?
But is he the same author? Because you mentioned he's French. I have to look it up because I feel like I know he did like a whole book, essentially kind of doing his version of fairy tales.
Those stories are so different. There's no way.
Yeah.
He was
the same guy.
Oh my god. That's crazy. Those stories are so different.
It's because he wrote one and he was like, let me rework it a little bit.
He's like, let me subtract the incest. Maybe that will make it a little better.
Did they subtract it or add it?
Yeah, I don't think that people are liking the incest part.
I feel like for Cinderella, it's either in or it's out.
Yeah, maybe this was the revamped version of the.
I hope so.
That's why this.
I hope he didn't go this one. Went to donkey skin. And I was like, yes, father.
I'm pretty sure this is why this one was picked for Disney, because it did not have the incest version of Cinderella, which we'll get into later. But you'll realize that's a very core part of Cinderella.
Yes, there will be other stories that touch the same themes, but definitely check out our Substack. I will definitely be writing a piece on donkey skin because it deserves a moment.
A little moment. There's a little too much incest in that, but a little moment.
I mean, it inspired a film in the 70s, and just looking at the imagery from that is great. So, like, I mean, come on, you have to take a little deep dive, little side quest for the week.
I was gonna say it's interesting that you pointed that out, that Donkey Skin was also by Charles Perrault, because in this moral he's talking about the moral is to encourage the intelligence and just I'm sorry. It's one of the morals for this is about good breeding. And then he's talking about incest in the other ones, and I'm like, ugh.
I mean, back then, wasn't incest good breeding? Like, royals just married their cousins or their sisters to keep it
Yes, we
pure?
can't break the royal blood.
I don't really understand that. I'm sure you people who watch Game of Thrones understand that.
They eventually figured out that inbreeding is bad after generations of not so great results. So we'll be diving into the Vasila the Beautiful, which is a mid-16th century Russian tale. Our story begins like many other Cinderella tales. A wealthy father loses his wife, remarries a crazy bitch. I mean, cruel stepmom. However, in this version, the mother, laying on her deathbed, gifts her daughter a wooden doll and instructs her to keep it with her at all times. When Basila isn't toiling at home, her stepmom sends her on her perilous errands into the woods, hoping that she gets devoured by Baba Yaga. This cruel plan is foiled by a protective doll. So essentially, she goes out into the woods while the father's away, and the stepmom takes this opportunity to just sell the house and just completely abandon Basila in the woods. She tells her to extinguish all the fires except for a single candle. So she finds herself lost and alone in the middle of the woods until she stumbles upon a giant house that stands on chicken legs surrounded by a fence made of human bones. Basila, paralyzed by fear, stands rooted in the spot as Baby Yaga's colossal fucking flying motor looms over closer and closer overhead. Baby Yaga is like, who's this kid, right? She's like, overhears the story of how she's like, winds up there and decides to give her a really grueling challenge. Complete these tasks or perish. Basila has to scrub filthy huts, the yard, launder Baby Yaga's Baby Gaga, sorry. Launder Baby Yaga's mountains of laundry, prepare a feast for a dozen, or seemingly a dozen, but it's really just her planning to devour everything by herself. And when Basila completes all of these tasks, Baby Yaga issues even more arduous labor. She's just like, I'm gonna pile this shit up on you. And tells her to separate rotten corn kernels from sound ones and to winnow poppy seeds from soil. As the Baba Yaga departs and takes off on her whatever she's doing for the day, Basila's like overwhelmed that she's like, I'm not going to be able to do this. I'm not going to be able to survive even another hour. I'm exhausted. I need to rest. And just when all hope seems lost, the doll speaks. It offers that glimmer of hope, promising to complete the task while she gets some rest. When Baba Yaga returns, she asks Basila's, like, how'd you do this? How were you able to get everything done? And her response is, by my mother's blessing. Baba Yaga, who wants nothing to do with any kind of blessing in her presence, throws Basila out of the house, sends her home with a skull lantern full of burning coals. And essentially, she takes it with her, hoping to provide light for her stepfamily. Unbeknownst to her, when she returns, she finds out that since she's left the home, her stepmother and stepsisters have been unable to light any candle or fire in their home. All attempts have been completely futile. Flames brought into the house were instantly extinguished. Coals from the school lantern wound up consuming both the moms and the sisters, and like they're all burned to death. And yeah, so then she's like, okay, well, that's done. And she, buries it according to instructions. Which I don't recall when she gets the instructions, but anyway, goes ahead and buries it so that never to harm anyone else again. Later, Vasila winds up going to the capital city in Russia and becoming an assistant of a cloth maker, where she becomes so skilled and amazing in her work that the Tsar himself notices her skill and marries her.
That is the most off-putting Cinderella story yet. It's very vague and very far from the other Cinderella stories.
Yes, has a dark element, but this time there isn't really like a shoe in it, but there's still somehow royalty gets fascinated with her, and they get married.
And this one, I feel like the moral of the story is like work hard and it'll pay off. You'll get noticed if you're highly skilled at what you do. / family protection. And still the same trend of dads marrying not so great stepmoms.
Yep.
Yeah, that part is the same. Stepmom, step siblings. The Baba Yaga part is probably the only thing that's way different from the rest of the stories, which is why she's her own folklore.
Mhm. Which we will totally dive into Baba Yaga on a different episode. But I love
Yeah, at
that
some
this
point.
is really big part of Russian culture that is even within their version of Cinderella.
For sure. But now let's get into my favorite version of Cinderella. Actually, this is the second favorite version of Cinderella. It's going to be The Princess and the Suit of Leather, or Burqa. It was first published in 1986. It is Bushnak's Arab folklores. This Egyptian folklore starts with a king who loved his wife and daughter above all else. So when his wife died, he was very distraught that he would only consider a woman similar to his wife that could wear his wife's late golden anklet comfortably. So, he was a little bit of a footman too, even though it was
he's all about them
action.
ankles.
He said,
"Show me some ankle."
Ankles.
Ooh.
Okay.
Ooh. So the king called upon a matchmaker, and the matchmaker informed him that the only woman in the entire kingdom who could fit this golden ankle was, yes, his own daughter, the princess. This is by the whole kingdom. She was just like, yeah, you can marry your daughter. No problem.
How much do you want to bet he didn't even try any other ankles? He was just like, "Here, try this on."
Yeah,
He's
he was like, I
"Oh,
take your word for it, matchmaker. I'll
fits
marry
you.
my daughter.
Okay, must not fit anybody else."
While the king, not seeing any problems with this, with the matchmaker's suggestion of incest, started the arrangement to marry his daughter. The daughter, only knowing that the king was to be wed, noticed that the palace was full of like a hustle and bustle. She was noticing people were celebrating and decorating. So she had no idea what was going on at this time. She was like, what the heck is going on? So she bribed a servant to finally find out the identity of who her dad was marrying. And the servant's like, it's you. What are you talking about? You're the one marrying the king. And upon hearing this, she was like, hell no. So the princess literally got the fuck out of there, jumped over the palace walls, and when she landed into a leather tanner's yard. She shoved a handful of coins in his hand and asked him to fashion a head-to-toe disguise as quickly as possible. The tanner got right to work and used all the skill into making a suit for her. After a night of work, he presented the princess with a pieced together burqa, something you would expect a drunk craftsmanship maker to make, basically. So picture just a bunch of leather parts just pieced together, and he was just like, here you go. You gave me all this coins, but put this lap of leathers on you. And he convinced her that that was the only way she would escape. So she took the piece, put it on, and headed towards the city gates. She was stopped occasionally by guards looking for people who were looking for the missing princess, because at this point they were looking for her. She was missing. But her only reply when she was asked was, my name is Juladai. For my coat of skins, my eyes are weak, my sight dim. My ears are deaf, I cannot hear. I care for no one far or near. This plan worked, and the guards left her alone as she escaped the city running on foot to the neighboring country. Many people of this new country see her, and the rumors start spreading of an ugly, shambling mound of leather walking around. People claiming it could be Ifrit, which is a creature that is just a mound of like body and flesh, basically walking around in the country. So this catches the attention of the queen, and she starts hearing these rumors. So she sends out her people to go capture this thing that she keeps hearing walking around. And so the queen's servants finally carry this pile of leather right before her, and the queen demands this creature to identify itself. Once again, the princess says her little poem that she told the guards over and over. Ignoring the fact that the princess isn't supposed to hear anything that she's being told, she definitely replies to the queen saying this poem over and over. The queen was delighted at this new novelty she found. She was like, ooh, this creature is exotic. It's cool. I'm just going to ask it what it can do and put it in my kitchen. After some time, the queen decided to throw
That's
a
weird.
party. It is a little weird. I don't know. If you saw a creature made of leather and skin, you're like, go work in the kitchen where you prepare my food. It's a little weird.
Well, I think that, like, if I remember correctly, she asks, what are you capable of doing or what can you do? And she's like, I can do anything. But I kind of think about, sorry, maybe I should wait till the end of the story. Let me know.
Well, after some time, the queen decided to throw a party, which she invited the entire palace staff. Hearing this, Juladai thought about it, and she was like, maybe I shouldn't, because, I'd have to take off my skin suit and go, but then she was like, what the heck, I'm just gonna go. So eventually, she took off her skin suit and then went to the party. Everyone was so shocked to see such an elegant and beautiful woman. It caught everybody's attention. She freaked out when everyone started noticing her. They were like, oh my god, you're so beautiful. And she just wanted to get out of there after that. So she threw some gold on the floor, throwing people into absolute chaos, trying to pick up the pieces. And she ran back to the kitchen, and once again, she threw on her leather burqa. So excited, the next day, the queen informed her son, the prince, about the woman who showed up to her party. This piqued his curiosity, and so to lure her out again, the queen threw another party. Like the last party, Judadai attended the party, attracted all the attention, and once again, like last time, at the end of the night, instead of gold, she threw some pearls on the ground and made her grand escape. As she fled, the prince grabbed her hand and slipped a ring on it, asking, "Where did you come from?" She only replied with, "I live in a land of paddles and ladles." And then she vanished from his sight. Upon the very next day, before going on a journey to find the land of paddles and ladles, Prince stopped by the kitchen to see the creature his mom kept as a pet for so long. And there laid a disgusting, misshapen cake he thought could only be made by Juliadai's hand. He took it with him on his caravan and started his journey. While he was outside of the city, passing its gates, he then went for a bite of this cake, and to his surprise, it contained the lost ring he slipped onto the woman's hand the night before. Realizing Juladai's identity, he quickly turned his caravan around, and shortly after his return, he tricked Juladai into coming near him so he can cut off her leather suit. They soon married after, and lived in bliss for a little bit, until her father and the matchmaker came knocking at the door. You guys remember them, right?
Yeah, how could you forget the terrible father that wants to marry you without telling you he's gonna marry you? And the crazy lady that gave him that idea.
I don't even think she said that. She's just like, it fit this on somebody's ankle that fits the same. Right?
Well, he
No,
automatically
so in the
assumed
story,
her.
sorry, I
Go
also
ahead.
read this for reference. Cheyenne gave us this wonderful fairy tale book, and we've all been taking a deep dive in our own little mini book club. But at the beginning of the story, they go and they try to put this anklet on everyone in the kingdom, and eventually they're like, we can't find anyone. No one's ankle fits this anklet. Until they're like, we haven't tried one princess or one person, and that's, within the castle of the princess. And that's how this works.
We're making light of the fact that this is still his daughter, but we'll get into that in a little bit. So, introducing her new husband to her father, she disguises herself in the prince's clothes for some reason and is like, hey, invite him in and we'll have some coffee, and I'll tell him a tale of basically a princess who escapes this palace where the matchmaker suggests her father wants to marry her. And in this story that she keeps telling over and over, she keeps twisting the tale to make it so that it's the matchmaker's fault. The matchmaker made her father pick this. It was the matchmaker's idea. So she then, after all of this, took her disguise off and said, "It is I, your daughter, whose life was ruined by basically the shitty advice of a matchmaker gave you." So upon hearing this, the father thinks long and hard, and in the next day, in the morning, they decide to just, throw the matchmaker off the cliff. And the king decided to bless these two and gave them some hush money, by the way, by giving him half of his fortune, and they lived happily ever after.
Okay, the matchmaker thing, what a sharp left turn that was.
Okay,
Yeah.
so but okay, it makes sense. It makes sense. Like they would have never checked her if nobody said anything. So I get like her being mad at the matchmaker, but there's also this weird like he's the king. You can't be like the king did something wrong. It's like you got to kill somebody. So just pin it
Yeah.
on the matchmaker.
He's in charge of a kingdom, so it's obviously the matchmaker's fault.
Clearly, he can't be responsible for his own actions.
Yeah. So, let me just give you
Yeah,
half of
right.
my fortune. You guys stay quiet, and we all go our own ways.
Yeah, exactly. You're like,
Happily ever
thanks for half a
after.
kingdom, Dad. Thanks for making me suffer all those years. Jesus Christ. Going back to when the queen takes in at the time not knowing that she's this gorgeous woman, but rather this like strange creature that's covered up in leather that looks like a pile of leather. I feel like she kind of took her in because she knew she wouldn't say anything, and I feel like having a confidant in that kind of level or position is really difficult. And so it's like obviously, yes, she can hear she's responding, but like she's gonna always say that. Like
That's a
she's
big
not
plot hole in this story, is that she hears everything, but her poem says that she is deaf and hears nothing.
I don't think it's a plot hole. I think it's kind of like stating like I'm not I like what is it? Snitches get stitches. She's not gonna snitch.
She's not gonna say anything. She's like, "You can
Yeah,
tell me
she's just gonna
whatever."
I'm just gonna always say this one thing and everybody's gonna be like, all right, yeah, whatever, she's crazy. And it worked.
I honestly think it was just a novelty thing. She's like, "Look at this hideous thing I have in my kitchen, guys. Come on. Look at it." I think it was more of that than anything else, because anyone can be in the kitchen. Even the cake that she made was ugly and misshapen. So I don't think it was her skills at all.
No, absolutely not. But I also think it wasn't just, I mean, yes, it's not novelty-esque to have this full pile of leather wandering around, but I also think it's the confidant concept of like you're not going to speak about things you hear, and she's mentioned to be in like rooms where she is with the queen, not just in the kitchen. So that's what makes me think that. But I digress.
It still has the backbones of Cinderella without the feet per se, but near the feet with the anklet and the finding the prince and living happily ever after and having someone to blame in all this, which is unfortunately the matchmaker who was suggested that he marry his daughter, which he fully supported until the end of the story, where he was like, maybe I shouldn't have supported that, and let's just throw you off a cliff.
The
But
ending makes me think of Snow White Disney edition.
it does. That is my favorite fairy tale. We'll get into that some other time. But for right now, we're going to get into one of my favorite versions of Cinderella, which Cheyenne's going to tell us all about it.
Yeah, so a lot of us know Brothers Grimm. They're German. And a lot of our fairy tales that we know today with their cute little happy endings, they're not cute happy endings in these ones. No, there's a lot of mutilation and stuff.
We love that for them.
Nothing like cutting off some body parts to try to fit the bill.
Yep.
We love that.
So, Brothers Grimm, Aschenput, but oh man, I looked this up. Aschenputtel, Aschenputtel.
Yeah, my mom
I'm probably
listens to this. Don't say things like that.
I'm probably cursing at the Germans. I'm sorry. Anyways, it's German for Cinderella. It was written in 1812. It's one of the more gruesome fairy tales. I mean, Cinderella fairy tales. So it also starts the same. Wealthy father, mom dies. Which what the hell? Why do the moms always die? As a mother, I take full offense.
Because you're not a protagonist unless your parents are dead. Sorry, anime rules here, guys. Remember that.
Bruce Wayne.
How else can you be horribly abused and not have anyone call CPS?
Yeah, because if your parents are dead, there's no one there to protect you. So this is why all the stories start with your parents dying.
You're an
Mhm.
orphan. Now you have to deal with it.
Yep. Congratulations, Batman. Anyways,
No.
the mom dies, and so everybody's sad. They bury the mom, and by the time the snow thaws on her grave, the dad remarries, and he remarries this woman. She has her own kids, and she's an awful fucking bitch. And like a lot of guys, he chooses his new family over his daughter and doesn't do anything when his stepdaughters and wife are treating her like a servant. And so there's one day her father's going off and he's asking all the girls, "What do you want?" And one of the sisters is like, "I want pearls." The other one's like, "I want other expensive shit." And Cinderella was like, "You know what? Whatever branch hits your hat while you're riding your horse, I want it." And so I was like, cool. So a hazelnut branch knocks off his hat, and so he takes it back to her, and she's so happy, and she takes it and she plants it at her mother's grave. And as she plants it at the grave, she's crying. She misses her mom, and her tears water it. And then outgrows this beautiful hazelnut tree over her mom's grave. So that happens. The tree grows. All is well, or not well. And so a letter comes in the mail. They're going to throw a ball, a 3-day ball for whoever. And so they definitely didn't want Cinderella going. So they're like, no, you can't go. Her dad's like, no, you're nasty. You stay here. And so she does, and she's sad, and she cries at the tree. And then these little birds are like, don't cry. Here's a beautiful gown and whatever. And so she gets ready. She goes to the ball, hangs out with the prince, has a good time, books it home before the rest of her family makes it home. She's running away. The prince is like, where's this bitch going? Running after her. And I forget what came first. It's like, oh, he tells the father, oh, I saw this woman. She climbed over your fence or something. And so he knocks down the fence and doesn't find her. And when they go into the house, Cinderella's there in the ashes, just huddled up and whatever. So it happens again the second day. She's running away. Second day, again, birds give her a beautiful gown and slippers. She books it off to the ball. She dances with the prince again. Next time, she's running away again, getting the hell out of Dodge. And he sees her climb into a tree. And so the father is there and he chops down the tree, but they don't find her. They go into the house. Cinderella's in the ashes again, just chilling. Third day, once again, gown, shoes, off she goes. And she's like, I gotta make it back. She's running. She loses one of her shoes. And the prince sees her, goes inside the house. And so the father goes in the house. All he sees is Cinderella. And he's like, nope, nobody's here. And the prince is like, okay. Goes back, finds the shoe that she dropped. And is like, okay, I'm going to go back and have this family try on the shoes because I need to find this girl. And so they give the shoe to the first stepsister, and the mom takes her back and she's like, you got to get this slipper to fit, cut off your toe.
Yes.
And the sister's like, what the fuck? At least you would think. She's like, what the hell? And the mom's like, it's fine. Once you're queen, you don't need to walk anymore.
You don't need
So,
toes.
yeah. So she chops off her toe, puts it in the shoe. Oh my, it fits. So the prince puts her on his horse. They're riding away, and the birds are like, dude, there's blood coming out of that shoe. Like, this is not her. And sure enough, he looks down and he sees blood splurting out of the shoe.
They didn't even try to, like, bandage it. They're just like, put your
No,
fucking foot in there.
blood's
these
filling up
birds
the
are
shoe.
like, tweet, tweet, she a liar. They're really trying to get Cinderella married off.
Oh, I picture like a cleaver just like whoosh, cleared off. We're ready now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I picture that too. And like, they didn't even try to bandage it. They're just like, put your foot in the shoe and go. Of course, that's the blood is gonna happen. Like, what were they thinking?
Right?
I know.
They didn't even try to make it stop bleeding with like burning
Nope.
it with metal. What would have been? What time
Nope.
frame is this?
This story was written in 1800s. So the prince is like, oh hell no. He brings her back to the house and is like, nah, this isn't her. Let's check some other feet. And so the mom takes the second daughter aside and is like, I need you to chop off your heel.
Oof.
Oof.
What's worse, your heel or your toe?
I don't want anything chopped off. We're good.
Yeah,
There for a reason.
neither. So the stepsister's like, what the fuck? Does it? Well, it's like, what the fuck? The mom's like, once you're queen, you don't need to worry about walking. So she was like, bet. And she chopped off her heel, put her foot in that shoe, gave her best smile, and it was like, this is great. Awesome. And so the prince puts her on the horse. They start taking off.
Jeez.
The birds once again are like, dude, are you fucking blind?
These birds, they got Cinderella's back in this one.
Yeah, they do. And so they're like, there's blood spurting out of that shoe, dude. He looks down, sure enough, blood's coming out of the shoe, brings her back, and now he's pissed the fuck off. He's like, I know there's somebody else here. Bring her to me. And they're like, no, she's just a servant. There's no way it's her. It can't be her. No. And
it's like, it's not that girl covered in cinders, right?
That's
definitely not the title of the story.
She's not giving main character energy at all.
No.
If this was anime, her hair was pink.
Even better, it's blonde.
Finally, they're like, fine, but it's not her. And so he tries it on, perfect fit. I want to know, is she putting her foot in there with all her sister's blood in it?
You know what? It doesn't even matter at this point. If that was happening to me and I knew my foot fit in there, I'm putting my fucking foot in there and I'm becoming queen. Like, get my foot in there.
But then it like makes like a squish.
I don't
as
care.
you.
At that point, are you saying you'd rather sit there and clean cinders than put your foot in
No,
there?
no, I might do it and then throw up afterwards.
I wouldn't even throw
Um,
up. I'd be like, I'm queen, bitches. Bye.
and then throw the shoe at their face.
Can't check if it's not existent. Shatter.
So, shoe fit, they were like, oh yeah, he took Cinderella back to his palace. They planned a wedding. And during the ceremony, the stepsisters were standing side to side, and a crow landed on the left shoulder of one sister and the right shoulder of the other and plucked their eyes out from those sides of their face.
Jesus. Why?
But
It wasn't
once
even their decision. It was the stepmother's
but
decision. Why do
they
they
were
gotta
still
get
part of
punished?
the trying to deceive. And so once the ceremony was over and they were heading out, they were standing to the opposite shoulders to each other. The crows landed, one on the right, one on the left, and plucked out their other eye. So they were blinded from that day forward.
So now they can't see and they can't walk properly.
Does anyone want to see this actually animated? Because I do. I want to see this as a live action film. Kind of like, I honestly would love to see if Tim Burton would take this on and like Sleepy Hollow it and make it into a movie where they didn't like over like exaggerate the horror like a lot of the Disney names that are going into the public domain nowadays. But if they
Mm-hmm.
like Sleepy Hollowed it and like made it like that, I would love that.
Yeah, I think of that scene when I think of Into the Woods because that's how they did when they did the film
Yes.
version of it.
I would love to see more of that in some of these fairy tales when they enter the public domain and you could just make a tastefully movie without over exaggerating the horror element in it.
Well, actually, that's a good question. Is Cinderella considered public domain? Because there's obviously all these other versions of it.
I believe. See, that is a good
I
question
guess
because
just
you have
not
to
the
look at
blue
the.
dress version, not the trademark blue
Yeah, you'll
dress
have to look
blonde
at the
hair.
Yeah.
public domain and look at Brothers Grimm if that's in the public domain because I believe it was when Disney decided to make Cinderella, which is why they made Cinderella. And I was actually recently in the theater a few days ago because I watched a horror movie. I watched Smile 2, by the way. And one of the commercials for that was Steamboat Willie, but it was a horror movie based on Steamboat Willie. And that is in the public domain now. You could just do whatever you want with that. And that is one of Disney's iconic first animations they ever made. So a lot of this stuff is going into the public domain as the years go on. So I believe that even if you did want to make a Cinderella horror thing that looked like Disney, you could. But I do believe that if you wanted to make a Cinderella, you could, especially based off of the Brothers Grimm, you could, because there are a lot of versions of Snow White out there that aren't the Disney's version of Snow White.
Yeah, and that's kind of why we're going through when we're going through the folk tales, we're also going through the different tellings, like different countries and their tellings, because I mean, they have like a base element, they have like a lot of the same story elements, but a lot of them are different in different ways, and it's fun.
But I just looked up, and a lot of the fairy tales, especially these fairy tales that we're reading, like the Brothers Grimm, are in the public domain. So anyone could make a movie about these. And I'm very disappointed learning that because now I'm like, where the heck are these movies at that no one has made anything close to this? Besides Snow White, I feel like Snow White gets a lot of publicity out of all the fairy tales.
It's a classic. It's our favorite, so makes sense.
It's one of my favorites, but I don't know about everyone else. I don't want to speak for everyone else because I know a lot of people like Cinderella. I don't know. I feel like a lot of people would be interested in this version of Cinderella, and I would love in my lifetime to see something like the Brothers Grimm version of Cinderella be brought to life in the theater.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
We could do it. We could do it, guys. We just got the funding.
My brain's like, maybe a video game might be easier.
So, what are your guys' thoughts on all these?
I think they're fun. It's fun to find out more from other people's cultures. The importance, I guess, or like the moral of the story at the end, is so different because it's from a different time period.
Different time period, different areas.
I think the theme of having a foot fetish or being ancestral, like with your daughter, is very prominent in a lot of these stories, which I find interesting. Definitely of its time, because if you try to do that now, you're just like, what the heck? What's wrong with you? Not the foot fetish thing. That's still a very real thing. But trying to
Well, with
marry
the
your
ankle,
daughter, well, the ankle one was, I mean, it's close enough to the foot.
what I was gonna say with the ankle is it makes me think of like Renaissance art where they have like certain meanings behind it, or like, oh, just show the ankle, where it's just like a little like more of a tease, but like still sexy, but not necessarily giving like everything away, just a little bit of skin. And so that's what kind of made me think of the ankle versus the foot. But maybe all of this stems from this idea that they couldn't discuss other elements of the female body and without being super class.
Oh, you mean like they weren't like, how big are her boobs? Let's tell by this bodice.
let's tell all this story of this bodice, right? You know what I mean? So I kind of think that could be
That's a
it.
little indecent for the time, where they're just like, how big was her bodice? Or,
Lay thine eyes on that bodice.
They weren't
lay
doing the
Over
them eyes
there.
measurements,
on them
they weren't.
bosoms.
Them bosoms.
Oh my gosh.
So we
They
went
all
for
ripe.
the feet. I don't know. What was your guys' favorite version of these?
Definitely enjoy the Baba Yaga being in the Russian story with Vasilis. And then I think one of the first ones or the second story Cheyenne went into, when you talked about Yizhan from the Tang
Oh,
Dynasty.
Yizhang.
Yizhan. I remember reading like a kid's book growing up, so that one kind of has a spot in my heart. Not as brutal as the version you shared today. A more magical, cutesy version.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely one that
I mean, that's basically what Disney's Cinderella is the everything's lovely and wonderful and cute and great.
And everything
it
works
was
out in
cute
the
and
end.
great.
And no mothers are murdered.
No eyeballs being plucked out and no parts of your feet being chopped off.
And no magical fish or magical wands. Well, some magical ones, I guess.
But I, again, are for somebody taking up the mantle and making the Brothers Grimm story. I would love to see that.
I guess we're gonna have to make it.
I think we are going to have to make it, because the only other person I could think would make it would be Tim Burton, but he's probably preoccupied with Wednesday season 2 and what other shenanigans he's up to nowadays. He has a new girlfriend, as we've seen in Beetlejuice 2.
Yeah, I'm
What
sorry.
about the
All
director
the
of
scenes
Us?
with the
Jordan
all the
Peele?
scenes with the soul sucker.
Yes, Jordan Peele. What if Jordan Peele
That
did
could
it?
be interesting too, actually. Yeah. Now that you
Yeah.
mention it. Yeah, but I just love the way that Tim Burton sets the theme. I don't know if you like the film theme of that. I feel like it would do so, like, a lot of these fairy tales would do so well in that theme. So if there's another director that can do that, because I doubt he will get to this in his lifetime, they need to do it. Because other than that, those people who make the fake horror movies right now, have you seen those people that make, like, I don't know if you guys know this, but Winnie the Pooh entered the public domain, and
I've
people
heard
made a
of it.
horror
I've
movie
seen
of it.
trailers, but I have
don't
not
want
watched it.
those people to make it, because it's going to be over exaggerated horror, and I love horror movies, but that is just a little cheesy to me for this kind of story.
Okay, speaking of cheesy, have you seen the trailer for Y2K?
There's a trailer for Y2K.
What? I have not. What is that about?
Oh my god, you guys, I'm gonna show you after we're done recording.
Oh no.
I wanna see it so bad. It looks so cheesy and so bad, but
is this based off the events that we all survived back in the
it
year
kind
2000?
of, but it's kind of like what we all kind of thought it would be.
Oh gosh, the rapture.
I didn't even know. I was
everything shutting
very
down.
young. I didn't know what that was. So is this like the adults version of what they thought it was?
Probably.
It was
What the
kind of
news
like
peoples were
all
saying.
the like fear mongering. It's kind of like making fun of that, is what the trailers kind of show. And I really kind of want to see it because it looks so stupid, but also like hilarious because, yeah.
Listen, you know how people during the pandemic went and like stocked up toilet paper?
Yeah.
Okay, so in the year 2000, I was a kid, but I remember this because like people were taking everything off of the shelves. Like they were taking cans. They were like thinking they weren't going to be able to cook or like get groceries anymore. Like they were preparing as if it was going to be a zombie apocalypse, essentially. Maybe not on the same level as a toilet paper thing in 2020. But still, it was this kind of weird, like, should we be prepping for something? Are we fine? I don't think anything's gonna happen.
I like that the pandemic emphasized the fact that people need to wipe their ass over everything else.
That's what they're most worried about.
Even right now, if you go to Costco, there's no toilet paper. I went the other day and there was no toilet paper because people are panic buying again. And I was like, that's the last thing you should be worrying about is wiping your ass.
Yeah. Buy a fucking bidet.
Yeah, a lot of us would save a lot on toilet paper if we just buy a bidet.
Everyone has their own fears. I just don't always understand them.
I don't know. I kind of fear not being able to wipe my ass too, so.
You know what? You walk around with ass dirty. Ass out. That's it.
Gross.
But going back to Cinderella, this has nothing to do with Cinderella.
My brain's like, how did we get here?
I don't know. Sometimes we just go off into weird tantrums of stuff. Going back to Cinderella.
I blame my ADHD.
Talking about the Y2K era.
Yeah, that definitely, actually, no. That was actually Cheyenne who brought that Y2K era up.
Yeah, because I brought up the movie because she was talking about the types of movies it is, so it made me think about it. Sorry. We don't want to make this the Halloween episode all over again where we just speak a little bit on like a little bit of like do here's Halloween, and then it's forever of us arguing.
Yes, so we apologize for that. Obviously, there's more Halloweens coming up. We'll do a better one next time.
Yeah. We'll try not to like go off on our Star Wars talk.
But if you would like a Star Wars talk, definitely let us know in the comments.
Yes.
I know that's a heated topic for some
Brie
people like me and Claudia.
arguing and Claudia
We're not
arguing
even
about
arguing
Anakin.
About plot. We're just arguing about
It's not about the plot. It was never about
everything
the plot.
but the plot, essentially. Anyway, not important, not needed to be discussed at this moment. We shall move on as a group together. Everybody get on the boat and jump.
We're going back to Cinderella. So in the original Disney film, what color is Cinderella's dress?
It's supposed to be silver.
But they make it blue.
From aging, it's turned the silver blue, and so now that's what we all associate Cinderella with, is the blue dress.
Yep.
Instead of the silver.
So rendering the film and the aging of the film, yes, it made it a particular color blue. But her original dress is silver. So do you guys feel a certain way about if you saw somebody in like a silver Cinderella dress versus the blue iconic dress?
No, but I think after reading all these stories, I realized that none of the stories we talked about today have any of the dresses mentioned, but some of the stories have this repeated theme of like having a beautiful dress made for the daughter, or
like spun with silver, spun with gold, spun with
made to look like the stars, the sun, the ocean waves. That is not mentioned in any of these, but it is a theme within the other stories. And also within the plugging again the donkey skin article coming up for you guys next week. Um, but yeah, like there's this idea of like a beautiful dress. So I wonder how they decided to do silver rather than yellow or like some type of gold.
I really hope you guys enjoyed these versions of Cinderella. I'm sure we missed a lot. I know Claudia mentioned donkey skin, which is also a very popular twist on Cinderella, which would be in the Substack. But I hope you guys look forward to our next episode, and we hope you enjoy these special segments. And we definitely look forward to hearing from you guys. And again, this has been Geeky Ghouls.
Keep it spooky.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to our podcast.
For more ghoulish fun, connect with us on social media, Geeky Ghouls or Geeky Ghouls Podcast.
Want more Geeky Ghouls? Visit our Substack for behind-the-scenes content, episode recaps, teasers, movie reviews, and more.
We'd love to hear your suggestions for future episodes. Share your fan art and overall comments about this week's topic.
You can also join our Geeky Coven on Patreon and unlock exclusive content and perks. Your support means the world to us.
Catch us on the next episode of Geeky Ghouls.